Greetings, the Ancestor Corps bids you greeting to Combat Patrol Carnage. Hello everyone, welcome back to Combat Patrol Carnage. It's time for a bit of a bumper video. As you've known, I've had to kind of cram together two issues into one due to health reasons, meaning I wasn't able to film as much. So that's what we're here to do today. So I've got issues 53 and 54 here, and we're going to cover all of the lore over these two issues today. So we've got quite a bit to cover. There's a short story, plenty of lore about the different factions, of course. So let's get into it. But before we do, don't forget to, of course, do all the usual. Like this video if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and drop me a comment down below. Love hearing what you're doing in your hobby, and I love hearing what you've got planned for the future. So let's have a little friendly discussion in the comment section. Finally then, Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They stock everything you need from getting started to adding those final details of paints and, of course, gaming and basing supplies as well. They also stock Combat Patrol magazine and other partworks from Hachette. So if there's a few issues you're missing or ones you want to double up on, check out the link in the video description and you might just find what you're looking for. Right then, let's head to the table and we'll do some quick reading. Here we are then with our first double issue video, and we've got our painted models from the previous video. You see, looking really cool, and yeah, they'll look great standing against the Carl as they do battle. So we'll be trying these out in our next video, so we'll put them off to one side. I'll adjust the camera and we can dive into issue 53 first of all. Right, here we are, issue 53, so we can go past our build guide. We've got a paint guide which we're going to skip over, but it's a simple update to our Chaos Space Marines. So painting all the horns and fleshy tubes with pallid witch flesh. Cloaks with pink horror and black leathers and boots, etc. with Mechanica Standard Grey. Then we got an update to our orcs, so it's again very similar. So horns, skulls, teeth, strappings with pallid witch flesh, tongues with pink horror, and then Mechanica Standard Grey and all of our black clothing, as well as the tyres on the base of our Deathcopters there. So after all that, we've got a look at the Leagues of Votann and the Ancestor Corps. We must honour the wisdom of our forebears as they honoured us by passing it down. Ancient Votann quote there. The Ancestor Corps. Ancestor Corps are ancient machine intelligences that shepherded and guided the kin using millennia of accumulated knowledge. They are sacred to the Leagues who depend upon them utterly for their survival. For as long as the Leagues of Votann have existed, their development has been steered by the Ancestor Corps, called Votann. Those from other species may have heard the name, but their true nature is kept secret. The kin suspect, probably correctly, that the greed, fear, or superstition of outsiders would only lead them to try and steal or destroy the Votann were their true nature to become widely known. As indispensable as the Ancestor Corps are, they have started to develop idiosyncrasies and become increasingly erratic. Some of the Votann have begun to slow down, sometimes taking hundreds of years to answer the type of query that they have previously responded to immediately. Others have started to issue pronouncements that conflict with those of other Votann, or even with their own earlier declarations. But the kin who hear these commands do not dare to question the validity, for the Votann's commands are sacred. The kin reason that if the commands seem counterintuitive or even contradictory, that this only reflects on the limited understanding that the kin themselves possess. Slowing down, taking longer to do things sounds like my computer. So yeah, basically ancestor cores are effectively living computers. The Grimnir. See, this is the guy I'm going to be painting up using colour scheme shown here and paint guides in the magazine. The Grimnir are the only kin who can communicate with ancestor cores, and they have become known as living ancestors. They use vast technological structures called fanes to petition the Votann for wisdom and guidance that they interpret and lay down before their kindred. The Grimnir also have a role to play in battle. They are psychically active and able to draw power from the warp. Clone schemes. The kin are a race of clones, but they are not all identical. Their development is varied by the use of stable mutations known as clone schemes. These impart valuable characteristics which have helped the kin to survive in the galactic core. It is said that, long ago, in the near-mythic past, the original mutations were developed by the Votann, and the ancestor cores have continued to shape the development of the kin ever since. So here we see various different Votann faces, helms, etc. And you'll have a basic sort of similar structure, but slightly modified in some cases. You've got bionic enhancements, etc. The Lost and the Lamented. The kin will lay down all in defense of an ancestor core, but even their might has not been sufficient to save all the Votann from the dangers of the wider galaxy. Some have been captured after their last defender fell. Much to the horror and shame of the kin, in hushed voices, tales are told of how ancient enemies like the Orcs and the Great Devourer have captured and desecrated sacred Votann. There we go, a little bit more about the history and origin of the ancestors' cores and the kin themselves. Moving on, we got a Votann table name, so much like our other names. We roll once for the row, and next for the column, and we find our name. So we'll utilise this as we have to name our Herthkyn warrior unit. So putting a piece of paper underneath, let's name our Herthkyn warriors. So first off, we've got a 4, followed by a 6. Proofier, or Proofier. So now to find the unit epithet, we've got a 2 followed by a 2. Proofier's Surveyors. So in kin society, they're more likely to be those that find out the ore deposits or ancient technology that they're seeking, and then send other people to go do the job for them. Finally, we've got a background we can roll on, so we've got a 6. These Herthkyn warriors are especially skilled warriors, and each member of the unit has mastered every weapon the unit carries. We can actually tick off build, paint, and we'll do play because we'll be doing that very soon. So there we go. Proofier's Surveyors are our Herthkyn warriors. So yeah, pretty cool. So we can read about Herthkyn warriors. Herthkyn warriors form the sturdy core of an oath band. Their expertise in the use of a wide range of weaponry allows them to overcome even the strongest of foes. And they never take to the battlefield without an array of ingenious devices designed to help them tackle any eventuality. So yeah, very widely equipped. So we've got the ion blasters, the high las, we got the rotary mining tool there as well. We've got a plasma pistol and a power sword, or plasma sword there for the champion. So on the back we've got our data sheet here. So they have a movement of 5, toughness of 5, 4+ save, single wound each, leadership of 7+, and objective control of 2. So they have the Autok pattern bolt pistol, which everybody carries. The Eta Khan plasma pistol on the Carl, the Thane. We've got the High Las auto rifle, so 24-inch range, 3 attacks, hits on a 4, strength 6, -1/1 damage. Plasma pistols, your pretty standard plasma pistol, but it seems to always be on your overcharge mode. Higher strength, higher AP, higher damage, and no drawbacks, but shorter range. Then we got the Ion Blaster, which everybody has, pretty much except for the 2 special weapon guys. So this hits on a 4+, strength 5, -2, 1 damage, so even their basic gun is pretty potent. Then we've got the Magna Rail Rifle, a single attack, hits on a 5+, strength 12, -3 and D3 +3 damage. So this thing's going to be taking out your tanks and walkers, etc. Standard close combat weapon for everyone else, and then a kin melee weapon for the Thane, with 2 attacks, hitting on a 4+, strength 5, -2 and 2 damage. So we can split this unit as they have the patrol squads rule. Comes from the Eye of the Ancestors faction, has the pan-spectral scanner, so all the shots ignores cover in the unit that has the scanner. And the unit with the med pack has a Feel No Pain 6+ ability. Infantry battle line, Herthkyn warriors, and come from the Leagues of Votann. Finally, models in the unit carry war gear like the Medipack and Pan-Spectral Scanner. You can find more information on this on page 37 and 38 of the core rules. So yeah, referring to your Ignores Cover and Feel No Pain special rules there. When you are splitting the squad, you need to decide which models go into which one. So you could put both these special units into one. But I think these guys are probably going to benefit more from staying as a big bulky unit rather than being split all the time. So that's it for this issue. Up next is the campaign pages. So we'll flip over and go to issue 54 where we've got a little bit more to cover. So here we go. Past our paint guide. And we hit our new pages, the technology of the Leagues. The Leagues of Votann are particularly advanced. They possess the technology to manufacture exceedingly high quality equipment and have the dedication to continually improve their designs over time. As soon as the Leagues encounter a new threat, their artificers immediately begin developing a technological solution. At the heart of every hold is a forge, a hive of activity whose inhabitants work day and night to turn out arms, armor, and equipment that is used by the kindred. The forge is crewed by cog robots and overseen by Brockier, artificers who labour under the flashes of plasma arcs and the glow of molten metal. Each Brockier works from traditional schematics handed down by the ancestors, but their own creativity is far from limited. Indeed, it is expected that a Brockier will apply their expertise in adapting designs as demand is needed. As long as these amendments are rigorously tested, such innovation is seen as a way to bestow great honour on the Votann. The kin's technology is tailored both to the unique physiology and to the extreme environments in which the Leagues have thrived. Perhaps the most ubiquitous example of this is the Void Suit, which has become the standard working garment of the kin. Even a basic suit is fitted with its own air supply, an array of sensors, and protective systems to guard against extreme temperatures and radiation. So yeah, where most Imperial technology is don't deviate, the Leagues are pretty much free to deviate. They've improved a lot of the Imperial technology that they were given in the past and took with them on the expedition fleets that they got lost in the cores. And they've improved it basically to be a lot better than what it once was. In the Fires of the Forge, a Brockier crafts new and powerful technology. Ion Blaster. An Ion Blaster is a devastating energy weapon that can blast through armor with ease, dealing dreadful damage to its target. They are commonly used as the standard issue weapon, and it is not unusual to find entire units equipped with them. Ion technology has proved so successful that other factions eagerly trade for access to its destructive power, although the kin are careful to keep the best of the weapons for themselves. High Las Auto Rifle. The High Las Auto Rifle is a powerful and accurate directed energy weapon that sees wide service among units of the line. It offers long-range armor-piercing capability, allowing its bearer to provide fire support and specialist targeting and suppression capabilities to their comrades in arms. Bolt Revolver. The Bolt Revolver is a popular sidearm that fires bolts from a short barrel. It is often carried by scouts and stealth operatives who appreciate the quick draw and lightweight of the compact weapon. In close-quarter situations where its limited range is not an issue, it is just as lethal as its larger and longer-barreled brethren. Shield Technology. The Kin make some of the finest force field devices in the galaxy. The crown and glory of their accomplishments is the Weave Fields, which combines the energy of several different fields to make a near-impenetrable barrier. The projectors of this field are so small that it can be carried by a single Kin for personal defense, but larger variants also exist that surround vehicles and ships. This technology is found a natural place in hazardous environments from the void to the battlefield. So there we go, a little bit more about the League's technology and different war gear and their shields that they utilise. Speaking of technology, up next we have a page all about walkers and battlesuits. Battlesuits and walkers are an indispensable asset to many factions, whether they utilise them for scouting ability, close combat proficiencies, or capacity to bear devastating heavy weapons. On the battlefields of the 41st millennium, the ground shakes under the footfalls of heavy machines striding into combat. Their huge forms tote massive armaments far beyond those carried by dismounted troops or light vehicles. From rearward positions, they hammer the foe with barrages of shell and shot, and in the front lines, the soldiers of the enemy flee in terror as these mechanical behemoths smash into combat, crushing and tearing everything in their path. Walkers. Walkers are towering vehicles that stride across the battlefield on legs. This allows them to get over even the most difficult of terrain and keep their crew away from battlefield hazards like fire and traps. They can tackle obstacles that would foil any other armoured conveyance, and they use their manoeuvrability to bring large weapons into tactical positions. Scout Sentinels range ahead of the main force. So you see an Astra Militarum Scout Sentinel here with a multi-laser array. And this is the older Sentinel kit. We're going to get the newer version in the Cajun Combat Patrol when we come to that. Battlesuits. Much like the suit of power armor, but larger and more advanced, battlesuits function like a mechanical extension of their pilots' bodies. The strength of the suit allows the wearer to carry and use incredibly powerful weapons, and many suits are augmented with other equipment like sensors, comms array, and even repulsor jet engines. So you've got the Tau flare launcher here, the Tau targeting system, and this is a Viola battlesuit. So a standard sort of battlesuit with 2 weapon mounts, a shield mount here, and all the added sensors and stuff to make them a little more tactically advanced on the battlefield. If I remember rightly, the pilot sits pretty much in the chest, and the head is just merely built out of sensors and mechanics. And pretty much everything else is the suit, and the pilot just sits in the center. We see this little black visor slit at the top. That's where the pilot can actually see and take in the surrounding. The enemy cannot stand against us, grind them to dust. Dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts are walking mausoleums, directed by the dwindling consciousness of a near-dead space marine entombed inside them. When a battle brother is grievously wounded beyond the skill of an apothecarian to repair, they may be granted the honour of having their still-living remains permanently installed in a dreadnought. Though some chapters will see this as a curse rather than a blessing to continue in entombment. So we've got a Skvald Warbringer here, venerable dreadnought of the Space Wars, with claw, heavy flamer, and a frost cannon. Finally then, we got a short story featuring the Sisters of Battle, called Martyr. Warriors of the Sisters of Battle risk all to defend the holy shrine from invaders. Martyr. The Adeptus are the standing army of the Imperial Faith, equipped with elite power armor and armed with Martian technology. They are the last line of defense against psychers, mutants, and heretics. Here they respond to a rising Geezer cult as it lays waste to ancient shrine that has stood for generations. Silence hung over the chancel, not the silence of prayer and devotion, but the silence of death. Sister Serena looked in despair at the broken bodies that lay on the altar steps ahead. The chancel guard, her sisters, had fallen in the face of the enemy. Behind the carnage, the two heavy doors that barred the way to the sanctuary beyond had been flung open. Suddenly the silence was broken by the sounds of a struggle ahead further into the shrine. Serena checked her bolter and headed towards the noise, through the doors and into the twisting passages beyond. As she passed the corpses of her friends, the flickering of the candlelight threw dancing shadows onto the wall. With every step she expected a hidden enemy to emerge from behind a pillar, but there was nobody here other than the dead, who stared at her, unseeing. There had been rumours of heresy in recent times, and the sisters, who were guarding the shrine, had been doubly vigilant. But now the power of the enemy was made manifest. In a day, the shrine that had stood for 1,000 years had fallen to the cults, accursed Xenos worshippers, but they would pay before too long. Serena rounded another corner, and a sickening feeling struck her as she was met by a scene of destruction. The walls had been daubed with profane glyphs, and everything not made of stone had been torn down. The faintest scent of smoke filled the air. Then it mingled with other smells. Burning fuel and singed flesh. Serena's heart sang. The intruders were facing the fire of justice ahead. In moments she entered the chapel where the relics were housed and was met by the unwholesome forms of the mutant enemy, half human, half Xenos, like wretched parodies of the alien gods they worshipped. A blast of fire lit the figure closest to her, and it screamed. Serena looked over and saw one of her sisters in a Paragon warsuit, letting out gouts of flame at everything that came close enough. Other sisters let fly rounds from their bolters, blasting chunks from the intruders. But the enemy were fighting back too. Everywhere she looked, Serena could see more and more of them, leaping from the gallery that encircled the room and swarming from the dark corners of the transepts. There were too many of them. At that thought, Serena felt both fear and elation. Though the threat of death was real, so too was the promise of martyrdom. Bolt after consecrated bolt flew from her weapon as she advanced into the fray, each precise shot laying low one of the baffling fiends. For a moment their onslaught relented, and Serena dared to hope that she and her sisters might turn back the tide, before an abhorrent hybrid of human and Xenos, larger and bulkier than the rest, slammed into her side with a ragged howl and bore her to the ground. As its claws tore through Serena's armor, the light of the raging fires faded from view, and the screams of pain, even her own, dwindled to almost nothing. For a moment, the terror of death threatened to overwhelm her. Then, blinding light burst before her eyes as a heavenly chorus sounded in her ears. Serena cried out with joy, a martyr at last. Do not pity the dead of war, for they were either the righteous martyrs of our faith or the damned heretic who deserved no compassion. Serena fires into the mutant despoilers who dared to desecrate holy ground. So there we see what it is to be a sister of battle, hoping to purge the scum of the universe and reach for holy martyrdom. So that's it for issue 54, and we're done with our first of our double bill. So up next we got some gaming articles to cover, so plenty of pages for the campaign, and then we get to try out our Herthkyn warriors against some orcs. So I hope you'll join me for that. All that's left for me to do is say thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time on more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.